For centuries, in the mysterious air created by a campfire, man has passed down legends of great beasts, creatures that have become legendary and roam the land as a living symbol of nature's backlash against man and his quest to conquer the wild. These men, Al Harrison and Frank Martin, found their quest for adventure in a land filled with legend, Alaska. Here, last year, they had stalked, spotted, and missed a magnificent moose. A moose that could, according to Alaskan Indian legend, be more than ordinary. He was called Willook, meaning Great Spirit. Legend tells of many members of the Indian tribe who had stalked Willook, but at the very last moment, just before the kill, he had disappeared, as if into thin air. He seemed to dare you to pursue him. It is said that the bravest of hunters did pursue, deeper and deeper into the wilderness, never to be heard from again. Yes, Willook had waged and won many battles with man. Some say it's only legend, but true or not, the story had kindled a determination in Frank and Jim to find and conquer Willook. Now, after 4,000 miles, they were once again eager to take up the trail, to face legend or superstition and make them a reality of the hunt. They were prepared to stay as long as it took, and every piece of equipment had been selected after long and careful planning. A good example is their boots, lightweight for walking in deep snow, yet warm and comfortable enough to spend many hours outdoors. They may spend all day stalking. As an experienced hunter, Al feels the obligation that any outdoorsman does toward a tenderfoot like Frank. This is one country where a man does benefit by others' know-how, or he might never live to benefit from his own. Al knows that here in the remote areas, he must be dressed for the worst weather and prepared for anything as they begin stalking the Alaskan moose. Their clothing is warm enough to keep them comfortable for hours of stalking, but light enough for easy walking. The wind blows wild across this untamed wilderness, flinging snow in the face of the intruders who come to gaze in awe at her rugged beauty, who come to challenge her children and create legends of their own. Such is this land in the northern wilds, a priceless land called Alaska. There they are, caribou. Al's knowledge has paid off again. This is a fair-sized herd grazing in the open. While caribou are plentiful in this country and considered by many hunters to be the easiest big game trophy, still the hunter needs to follow good hunting practice and stalk his game upwind to within shooting range. Then make his shot count. They've spotted a bull caribou with good-sized antlers, a real prize. Now he's running. Will he stop and turn as a curious caribou sometimes does? They'll get a little closer and try for a good shot. He moved. An easy shot. The disgust that fills a hunter when he misses a likely shot isn't easy to live with. And that herd running off through the brush doesn't help his morale either. In this country, the white blanket of snow distorts distances in a mist of swirling flakes. That same swirling snow would now make it impossible to track the caribou. Dry and light, the wind was shifting it about like sand on a barren desert. Everywhere you go in Alaska, you'll find places to camp. The hunter who takes his home with him in south-central Alaska will usually have a view of one of this area's mountain ranges, near the hunting areas, where the game can be found. If one thing might not be called an absolute necessity, it would have to be this trailer leveling jack. But Al had insisted they have one, a conclusion reached, no doubt, from the results of previous back-breaking experience, sleeping at a slight angle with a vapor-locked gas refrigerator warming up. It's easy to see why an experienced traveler appreciates conveniences like this. Man may be a throwback to his ancestors in his desire to hunt, but today's hunter can have at his fingertips all of the pleasures of home while he's on a trip. Evening is a good time to check your rifle, and Al began wondering if that miss might have meant his gun sight was out of alignment. If Frank and Al could get the rifle sighted in before the next hunt, they would know for sure. Al was doubly glad that he and Frank would be going to Golconda tomorrow to spend the day with his friends Bill Cleed and Joyce Hornady. Both men were respected in the fields of guns and ammunition. They were up here in Alaska testing new equipment and ammunition. He said even an old pro liked some expert advice now and then. And if anybody had the know-how about ammunition and firearms, they did. The next step was to unhitch the trailer so they could go into town for their snowmobiles. Al believes in the right equipment for everything, and this was no exception. For the hunt that was planned for tomorrow, they would need snowmobiles, since the final leg of the journey could not be made any other way except on foot. The trailer would be left behind, and they would be taking the snowmobiles to a place near the hunting area. They could travel on foot to look for game. Tomorrow's hunt would be a big day for Frank. His first big hunt. They had arranged to have two men show them the operation of the snowmobiles. It's not difficult, but a little experience can go a long way in this terrain. And the snowmobiles are important. They save a lot of walking. Their use is legal to get to the hunting area. Then you leave the machine and start stalking. The four men would unload the machines and mush by motor to a cabin back in the woods where Cleed and Hornaday were hunting. Less than 100 years ago, it would have taken days to cover the distance they could cover now in a few short hours. These powerful snowmobiles would carry them over rugged wooded terrain that only the most experienced hunter would have attempted on foot. As they pulled into the clearing, Bill Cleed and Joyce Hornady extended a warm welcome. That is part of the code of life in this wild, lonely land where people are few and far between, and friends are truly cherished. Although Al would be using factory loads, Frank would be using hand-loaded ammunition for his 444. Since he loads his own ammunition, the hand loader always has the utmost confidence in each load, and the economy lets him do more shooting. The hand loader can match his loads to his rifle and get the maximum velocity and energy. Finding out how a new bullet, load, or rifle will actually perform on game is the way men like Cleve and Hornady make sure the hunter will have the best possible equipment. Frank wasn't sure of the correct powder charge, but a simple check of the handbook showed the recommended powder charge for his combination of cartridge and bullet weight. To check the setting of the powder measure, the charge is weighed on an accurate scale. A slight adjustment, and the remainder of the cartridges can be charged. Cleve pointed out that the brass case, though the most expensive, is the reusable part of the cartridge. Next would be the seating of the bullets. The most important single component of the completed cartridge is the bullet, both for accuracy and best penetration for big game. Frank would be using a .44 caliber 265 grain bullet, making use of one of the advantages of hand loading, the ability to use this heavier bullet. There's a measure of satisfaction in knowing your trophy was taken with a cartridge you made. But no matter how well made, the cartridge can't do its work unless it hits the target. Because no two people are alike, every hunter should sight in his own rifle with the ammunition he will use on the hunt. It's off to the right. The windage screw on the scope is adjusted to make the succeeding shot strike farther to the left. He will fire and adjust until the rifle is sighted in. A little higher and he may have it. That did it. One more shot should verify the adjustment. Now it's Al's turn to check his .30-06 with the ammunition he will be using. At this 100-yard distance, he will sight in to shoot a little above the bullseye to allow for bullet drop at longer range. The first hit is low, so an elevation adjustment is made. As the adjustment screw is turned, each click moves the impact 1/4 inch at 100 yards. Another adjustment may do it. One more shot should verify the adjustment, and they'll be ready for the hunt. Morning of the hunt had come, cold and clear, and it was time to be on the way. Using snowmobiles had changed Al's hunting plans, for now they would ride over the hills and through the deep snow, seeking fresh caribou tracks. Then, leaving the snowmobiles, they would begin their stalk upwind, hoping to approach within good rifle range before one of the big bulls spotted them. There they are, a herd of caribou on the frozen lake below. Caribou are not by nature highly intelligent and may remain here if they don't catch the hunter's scent. So there's time to move closer for a better shot. The wind is with the hunters, and miraculously the herd hasn't moved. There may still be a chance at a good shot. They creep closer, silently. The caribou are getting restless. One of the bulls sniffs the air as the herd begins to move. Al drops a third one. This can be promised payment to their friends for their assistance. This has been a good hunt. 3 bull caribou, all creditable size. These would be their first Alaskan trophies. Enough caribou steaks for both of them, although they could legally take 3 apiece. Now the snowmobiles would really mean a lot as they pulled the game back to camp. In the old days, Al and Frank would have had to quarter the caribou, then pack the meat out on horseback or dog sled, costing them valuable time they would now use to hunt Willook. Having made their gift of 1 caribou, the hunters are back in camp. Home. To the tired hunter, these trophies make it worthwhile. This part of the hunt is the proof of their accomplishment. The antlers of Al's kill are pretty good sized and will make a respectable trophy of the hunt. A successful one, thanks to the snowmobiles, fine rifles, and a hunter's skill. Hot caribou steaks sizzle in the pan on top of the stove, while biscuits brown in the oven. And the smell of coffee fills the air. Never was a restaurant could match a meal like this. Frank made a darn good cook for a tenderfoot. Caribou steaks are something special to people up here. This meat has a flavor a little like venison, but unlike anything else. These hunters will have plenty of takers for any excess meat. Al wondered what Frank would say when he found out that the code of the trail called for the tenderfoot to do the dishes, too. He almost didn't have the heart to tell him. Almost. Well, the first few days had gone quickly and were filled with lots of good hunting. But now they'd been out 2 full days on the trail of the elusive Willook. 2 days, and not one sign to indicate they were any closer than the day they started. Today, Al had that feeling they might be close to their prey. A feeling so strong he couldn't turn back despite the lack of signs, and a deep determination that this time they would meet and conquer Willook. Then, tracks. It looked as if they might be close to some game. Excitement was building in anticipation of the chances ahead. Before they could think about it, they knew it had to be him, standing like a giant statue on the hilltop. Majestic, an awesome animal that defies man and beast to invade his kingdom. A little closer. They needed to be nearer, and could if there was only time. Breathlessly, silently, Frank raised his rifle. Missed. He'd been well centered in his scope, but Frank had felt the full impact of buck fever. With disappointment almost too heavy to shoulder, they doggedly pursued, hoping for one more opportunity. Then Al's certainty paid off. Once again, they came onto a track. And again, the hunt was on. This time, even though the tracks would end beyond infinity, they could keep going to follow until once again Willook was framed in their sights. This time, there would be no buck fever. The eye would see clearly. The hand would be steady. Suddenly, it seemed as if time had stopped. Ahead was their target. Willook. Then there he was, running swiftly from his fate, trying to elude his destiny. This time it's Frank's moment of truth. This one had to come. A trophy moose, this one, not the giant they thought they had seen. What had happened, they were not sure. It was as if the majestic animal in their sights was gone. And here in his place was a fine trophy. But it could not be the fabled Willook. Since time began, man has pitted his wits and skill against the animals. Not always victorious, but when the result is victory, it is an experience long remembered, never equaled. Thus the hunt has ended, or so it would seem. Yet as they travel down the road, two men will sit in silent thought. The glow of some distant campfire in their eyes, while the wind outside seems to laugh and whisper, "He still lives. Willook still lives. Willook still lives."